So we're going to do a little introduction here to ArrayList. Actually, it might not be so little. We'll see how things go. So we've got our main set up already here, intro hockey demo. And what we're going to do, well, let's see. Let's plan this out a bit. Step one is going to be, what we want to do is create a player class. And we'll need things like, name and basic stats. Next, we're going to create a team class. And that'll be city, team name, and an array list of players. I guess we should say player objects. Let's be specific. Okay, next, what else do we want to do? We want to read in a text or CSV file, which is just a text file, comma separated values for each new team. And then we're going to add, then we're going to create player object for each player. And then finally, we're going to add player objects to the array list for each team. All right, this is somewhat ambitious. So there's a couple of things we might have to learn here. Might be new. And I think what I'm going to do is start just by doing some testing, reading in a file, just so we have a look at what that looks like. So we're going to have to do a couple of imports here. This might look somewhat familiar. And we'll also bring in the scanner utility. We've seen this before. And we use this to read from input. And we're going to use this to read text files. All right. We may need others, but that'll get us started for now. So let's see. What do we want to do here? Create a player class, name and base, create a team class. Okay, so we're just going to work. We're just going to work initially on getting that text file working. So what we're going to do is go to the Vancouver Canucks, and we're going to drag over top of the entire stats page. We're just going to grab it all. Control-C to copy. We'll go to a spreadsheet, and we'll paste it in there. And I think we can get rid of that top row. We're not going to need that. Delete row. And for stats, we want, let's go back to it. We want games played, goals, assists, points is a sum of those two, so we can do that inside the program. We don't need our plus minus. We'll do penalty minutes and we'll forget the rest. So we're going to take the first three, 1, 2, 3. This is the sum. We're going to get rid of this one and the plus minus. We'll delete these two columns. Then we want the fourth one, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to get rid of all the rest. Now, we could certainly build these in. It's just going to complicate things to the point where it becomes almost redundant. We don't need it. Okay, so that was easy. We've got our players. Let's go File, and then we're going to download this as, oh, wait a second. I can see there's going to be one little problem here because it's put first and last name into a single table, or sorry, into a single cell. And that's not going to be a problem, but we'll have to take a quick look at that. So we're going to go download CSV. Okay, there it is. We'll show in the folder. And we're going to call this Canucks. And let's just open that up. Actually, I'm going to edit it with Notepad++. Okay, so little issues here. We're just going to go we're going to have to manually edit this, which is not great. You can get rid of spaces and put commas in. So we've got all our players. Let's save that. Control S. And we should be good. We've got our CSV file. Now we've got to also upload it here. So we're going to go new, upload, and we'll call it Canucks.csv. And we're going to drag it in there. Okay, so we've got the file. All right, how do we read this thing? And how do we know that it's actually working? Well, let's go like this. We'll say file team equals new file and this is going to be the name actually of our file name, so we'll call this Canucks.csv. And we'll say scanner my reader equals, you don't need to memorize this, I don't have it memorized, and we're going to read in team. So team has been assigned that file. Scanner, we're going to create a scanner object called my reader. And then finally what we'll do is let's use a while statement. I think that's the traditional way. So long as it's reading in lines, has next line, as long as it's doing that, what do we want to do? String data. Now, pretty soon we're going to want to see if we have an error here. It's a lot of typing. Actually, you know what we could even do is we could just go like this. Let's just try and print it. Yeah, let's see if we've got anything happening here. Okay, we're going to save this and run it. Probably going to be a mistake or two or three. Let's see, unreported exception. Yes. So I think what we need to do up here is just add a way to deal with that. So we'll say throws exception. And I think we need a capital E. Okay, that was pretty easy. That was quick. So with just 4 lines, 5, 6 if you count the brackets, we're able to read in and print out everything that's here. Now that doesn't do us a whole lot of good because we also, although that does mean we've done this one here, so I'll just put a little mark next to it. So we can read in a text or CSV file for each new team. That part's not going to be too hard. Down to 4 steps. We got to create player objects for each of those, and so we don't really know what that's going to look like other than we better create a player class because we're going to need a player class to reference. So let's go new, and we'll say file, and we're going to call it and get rid of main. And what is this going to look like? We're going to need some values in here for sure. So first name, last name, and then our stats: games played, goals, assists, points. Okay, we better remember points as well. All right. So those are our instance variables. Let's set up a constructor for this. And we're going to keep these short and sweet. String first name will just be F. String L will be last name. Int games played. Int goals. Int assists. Int penalty minutes. Okay. And we know And for points, we're going to say points equals goals plus assists. And finally, penalty minutes equals P. Okay, let's see if we have any errors in this. I like to do a check like that just to make sure I didn't put anything in here that's not going to compile later on. Okay, we're probably going to have a two-string method, but we don't need to worry about that for now. Not sure what other methods we're going to have here. But this is where things start to get interesting because we've already got this thing to read a file in, but we don't necessarily want to immediately create our player objects. Let's take a look at how we might build our team class. So let's go File. Okay, and again, we'll get rid of main. We got to make a decision here about what we want for instance variables. Let's go. We're for sure going to need the city. And we're going to need the team name, obviously. And then I think what makes the most sense, especially considering it's a unit on ArrayList, is that we create an array list of player objects. So again, not quite sure how we're going to do this yet, but we'll just start building. Array list. And we'll call it team. The team. So maybe we should call this teams, and then we'll call this team. I think I like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's put a constructor in here. So we're going to have public teams, whoops, string the city, string the name. And of course, city equals the city, and team name equals the team. Now, we also are going to need to initialize and actually give some value to this array list. We don't know how many players there are, which really makes sense that we're using an array list instead of an array, because we can just keep adding on to it, or remove if we want to as well too. So let's go team equals new array list, and again it's going to be player objects. So whatever the type is, we put inside those less than greater than brackets. Okay, let's see if we've got any errors here. Should be fine, I hope. Oh, we got an error. Teams is public. What do we do here? Public teams. Oh, I think I misnamed it. So we're going to have to go like this. Rename. Teams.java. Oh, I could have done it before. There we go. All right, should be better now. Let's save it and run it again. Go back up to Teams and see what we get. Teams Java 5 error cannot find symbol. Okay, one thing we need to do is change that to the name. I made a mistake there. Let's see if that solves anything. Still got a problem. So private array list. We're trying to use an array list, but we haven't actually used our import to make sure that we can use an array list at all. So that's obviously going to be a problem. So let's go back to that file, and we need to import. It doesn't recognize what an array list is unless we go Java import java.util.ArrayList. Okay, let's try that now. And everything is looking good. Okay, still a little bit to go here. And this is just the basics, of course. Our classes are not actually working yet, or we haven't employed them, I should say. All we've done is simply read in and then output. We don't need this line anymore. We can get rid of this. Oops, I'll just comment. So one of the things we're going to need to do is split this up based on commas. Wherever we see a comma, we want to turn this into a unique element. So each comma separated value needs to become an element in an array. How do we do that? Well, turns out there's a method for that, and it's quite simple to use, and it is split. So let's run split and see what happens. So for each line, what do we want to do? Well, we're going to go string data equals myReader dot next line, as we saw there. And then we're going to go string. We're going to make an array of string objects. Call it dat is equal to data dot split. And so what we'll do is we're going to split this based on commas. I think it's like that. And we can set that to 0, which means it'll just keep going until it hits the end of the line. Oopsie. Let's get that right. Okay, I think that's it. So we're saying, once again, split each line up wherever you find a comma and keep going to the end of the line. We could put a hard number in here, like 6, for example, because there's going to be 6 elements, and that should work as well too. We can test that if I remember. And then let's see what happens. See if that works. Okay, nothing happened, which is actually not a bad thing. We can do a quick test here. We use a for loop. We can use an enhanced for loop here. So remember, they're all string types, which is going to be a problem because remember, what we actually want, if we go to players, we want a couple of strings and 4 ints. Actually 5 ints, but one of which we calculate inside of the constructor. So let's go back here for string, we'll just say A in dat, where dat we've defined that as the name for our where dat is the name of our array. Okay, so line A, and so what it should do, hopefully, is print each object out, each element out. Well, let's see what it does. We might get a lot of output here if it works. Okay, fantastic. So it prints the first name and the last name. Each element in that array is printed out one at a time on its own line, because that's what we told it to do here. Okay, so we have broken it up. This is fantastic. And we've turned it into an array. So what we could actually do is send that array into the, or we could use that to create a player object. But this is where things get interesting. What we could also do is inside of teams, at the same time as adding each player in, we can also simultaneously create an object. Let's see if I can explain this differently. Let's see if I can explain it by actually doing it. So what's this going to look like? We don't need this anymore. I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to say the team. We're going to actually need a team's object to work with. And for team object, we need a city and a name. That shouldn't be hard to do. So let's create one for the Canucks. So we'll go teams Canucks equals new teams. And we got to send in a name. What was first here? City, I think. City and then the name. Okay. Vancouver Canucks. Okay, so that should work, I hope. Okay, we got nothing, which is good. No errors. Fantastic. So we have a teams object called Canucks. So what we could do down here now, and you know what we probably should do? This is starting to get pretty busy. We really should put this into its own method. That's just a good habit to get into. So let's, while things are still kind of fresh, let's do that. I'm going to copy and delete it. Go down here. And we're going to say public, it's going to be static. Void make team array. This is going to make our team array. We're going to need to send a team in. Teams, the team, followed by a string, which would be the file name. We're going to need the file name as well too. And we're going to have to use that throws exception once again. Let's just add that in now so we don't wonder why we get an error message. I'm going to move this over just so we can see it all. Then we got to put this inside of squiggly braces. Okay, go to the end and back. Okay, see if that gives us any errors. We got an error, line 20. Yeah, and once again, I forgot to capitalize the E. So we'll do that. Did you notice that, by the way? Hopefully you saw that. Okay, no errors. Fantastic. Back to the start of the line. And I think it's good practice also, by the way, to close this down. Like that. And a semicolon. And again, I'm just going to check for errors. Okay, so the last thing to do inside of here now is to actually add a player. So we've got this all broken down, and we've also made a team object, okay, and we've called it the team. So we'll go the team dot add player, and we're going to send into that our data or dat array. One little problem: we don't have an add player method inside of our team's class. So we need to get that in there, because obviously we're going to get an error message if we try to run this now. What is this going to look like? Okay, well, we know the name of it. It's going to be public. It's not going to return anything. Void add player. And we know it's going to take as an argument an array of strings. And we'll just call it data. And let's see, we want to add team.add. We can use the add method, built-in ArrayList method add. And while we do that, this is the tricky part. We're going to make a new player. Aha! So you know what the arguments are here. Data 0 is the first name. Data 1 should be our last name. And we can go back to player just to refresh our memories. First name, last name, games played, goals, assists, and points. Okay. And if we've done this right, data 2 should be our games played. Data 3, whoops, should be goals. Data 4 should be assists. And finally, data 5 should be our, oh, we need a semicolon in the end. That should be our penalty minutes. Okay. I don't know. That would be pretty awesome if we don't get an error on this, things are going pretty good. So let's run it, and we're probably going to get a couple errors. Okay, yeah, I figured. Teams, Java, error, incompatible types, string. Right, of course. Well, we're trying to, okay, this is a bit of a problem. What we're trying to do is add something in here without actually parsing this data, okay, for games played, for goals, assists, and penalty minutes. We're trying to send in string values, but we've already defined player object as having 4 ints on the end. So we need to make sure that these are all converted to ints. And how do we do that? Back to teams, there we go. Well, it turns out that there's a method for that as well too. Thankfully, it's not very complex. It's integer.parseInt. Then we put in brackets data 2, and that will parse this into an integer. So I'm just going to copy this and put it in front of each of these. And then I got to come back and close each bracket off, otherwise we're going to have a problem. So we need to go here, close round bracket, here. And I think we need one more here as well too. Whew. Okay, let's see if that worked. Oh, we don't have any errors. That's exciting. Now, you might have noticed something about this. This is something, I don't think we've seen this in other units, where we're creating a new player object, but we're not actually giving this individual object a name. Huh, kind of cool. So we're adding into the array list, which we defined as one of the instance variables for our team's object. Okay, so we're adding, what we're doing is we're building up this, this team instance variable, this team array list. And each time this runs, add player, what it's supposed to do is create an actual new player object. So how do we test this? Well, let's do, I don't know, let's make a method to print this. That makes the most sense to me, actually. So we'll go public void print team. Yeah, we're going to need that. And what is it going to look like? Well, we're going to do system.out.println. We'll make a new line when we do this. At first, the escape sequence. First, followed by a tab. Might not get this perfect the first time. That's okay. Last name followed by a tab. Again, these are escape sequences. Followed by games played. Followed by a tab. Followed by assists. And yes, Java knows to isolate this to insert a tab and then output the A. It does know to do that. So I'll go assists, points, I don't know, something like that. /T, and finally penalty minutes. Let's see if that does anything. Well, let's see if it doesn't throw an error first. Okay, perfect. So we'll go back to here, and we want to go print team. We've got an object to work with, so we can go Canucks dot print team. Shouldn't be an argument there. Oh, there we go. And it did print what we wanted to print. If you were astute, though, you may have picked up one problem. We've defined all of this, okay, but we haven't actually called it. So we need to run that program, okay, that method, make team array, using Canucks. So we're going to run it. It's static, so we can just type make team array. And we need to send in a team. In this case, it's Canucks. And we also need to send in the file name, which is, in quotes, canucks.csv. Okay, this is the moment of truth. Let's see if it's going to work. It's thinking. Oh, there we go. That took a bit to run, but it did execute when we told it to print. Now, of course, it's not printing out what we want, though. So let's go back to team. And we're doing this, but now really what we want, and we could add the team name in there as well too. That might be a nice line to start with. System.out.println. Actually, we should have the new line character here, not here. And then we would go city with a tab and team name. Okay, and again, let's just do a quick test on that's funny. Plus city plus our tab plus team name. That's why it's good to test. All right, so we actually want variables there. That's, yeah, I'm sure you figured that one out. Vancouver Canucks. There we go. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Now we just need to get the players here. How do we do that? Well, we're going to say for. Okay, so for player P in team, because it's going to be for the current object. System.out dot print line p. Now this is not going to do much because hopefully hopefully the wheels are turning and you realize that if we're trying to print out an object, because each of these are an object, all we're going to get is some reference to memory. So we can fix that by going to the player class and defining a toString. So let's do that. And this might take a little bit of formatting, but we'll get there. String maybe. String R for return equals first name plus, we'll put a space in there, plus last name. And we're just going to check this just to see if it's working. And then we'll return that. Okay, not bad. First name plus last name. What happened? How come we don't have the first name and the last name there? Did I spell something wrong? F name? Oh, I haven't. No wonder. There we go. Try again here. That's better. That's what we want. Now, of course, we want a little bit more than this. And it would really be nice if they all lined up nicely underneath the headings. So we could try putting tabs in. I don't know if that's going to work. The right way to do this actually is using printf. And we can actually, that would work a whole lot better. I'm just going to do a real quick kind of butchering of getting this to try and line up. And what we'll do is we'll actually, I'm going to get rid of this. String R equals first name. That's fine. I'm going to use an if statement. We're just going to keep adding on to this string. If the first name, you can see that there's different letters. And so if we insert a tab, there's going to be a problem. We're never going to get the names to line up nicely. So we'll have to go, if first name dot length is less than 8, we'll say R plus equals a couple of tabs. That's if it's less than 8. And we'll add the last name in there too. Else, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. Else what's going to happen is it's going to just have one tab. So if the name's long, we only need one tab. And I should probably have that return R here. Okay, let's see if we're getting anywhere with this. I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, we'll have to do the same thing for last names because you notice some of them are quite short. Okay, we go from 4 letters all the way up to pretty long last names. So I could probably copy this. Oh, no, that won't quite work. Let's just type it out. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of mistakes. If last name dot length is less than 8, R plus equals, I guess we don't even need those brackets really, do we? Put them in up here as well too. I'm not sure why I did that. Let's get rid of those. There we go. Simplify where we can. Else. Copy that. And we just need a single tab if the name is longer than 8. And then we can just add everything else in here. R with tabs. Plus equals games played plus a tab. Let's speed this up by copying all of this. Okay, plus a tab plus goals, paste, plus assists, plus points, plus penalty mins. Okay, let's see if we got this working. Okay, it's fairly spread out. That's okay though. And the only one thing we can see is we need to actually do some alignment here on our heading, and that should not be hard to do. I think that was back in Teams. All we got to do probably is throw another tab in here. So first we've got 2 tabs, /T, and after last we're going to have 2 tabs as well too, and that should do it. Okay, well that's not bad. We've got all our output. We've read in from a text file. We've created our player objects. Why don't we quickly see if we can add another team to this? So let's go. Teams, Leafs, got to have the Leafs in there, equals new teams, Toronto Maple Leafs. Save that. We're going to run it. And we're going to have to go back here. And let's just go NHL Maple Leaf stats. Toronto Maple Leafs. Now let's use the one that we know works. NHL. There we go. Oh. Okay, it showed up in French. That's okay. Copy that. Gonna go up here. We're gonna add one on. Paste it. Delete a row. Delete 2 rows. Delete the rest of these. Save that, Control S. Let's upload. So we're going to go new, upload, leafs.csv. Make sure it's there. Yep, looks good. We can hide this now. And then we want to make an array out of this. Copy that line. Except we're going to change this to Leafs and Leafs. And just to make sure it's working, we're going to go Leafs.print team. Wow, if this all works, that would be awesome. And then we should be done. Okay, we got it. This is really good. This is just the beginning. What we've done that's kind of exciting here is we've actually used, from within a class, we have created objects from another class. And at the same time, added those into an array list. This is pretty complex. We could break this down, and maybe I should have broken this down, but this is really the simplest way to build the objects by simply iterating through the input, and after each line creating an object and adding that into an array list, and then we end up with an array list of players. What we could do now is we could actually cycle through. This would be the next part. We're finished for today, but this is really just the beginning, because we could cycle through and see how many games average has each player played. I don't know, it's kind of a silly stat. What are the total number of goals? Oh, I think I have I'm missing one in here. Okay, let's go back and fix that. So when we output, we don't want first, last, games played. We need goals. /T. There we go. Then assists. Let's try that again and run it. And we should get these to line up. Games played, goals, assists, points, which should be the sum of these two if we've done it right, and then penalty in minutes. So what we could do is go through and find out who's got the most penalties. We could go through and see who's got the most points. Now it's arranged by points here. That makes it easy. We could get the average points. We could extract the top 5 players. We could extract the bottom 5 players, just in terms of points, which is maybe not the best indicator. But we could apply anything using some of the algorithm methods that you're going to learn in this unit. So really, this is the beginning of the unit. And if this all made sense, then things are going well. I hope this helps. Over and out.